Okay, time for a new video, and whether you are somebody new to my channel or you are returning to my channel to watch this video, it is greatly appreciated. As always, I'm filming this video in one go, so if I stumble over my words moving forwards, apologies about that, and also apologies if the quality of this video is fairly poor as well. If there's any lag, anything like that at all, sadly it can't be helped, and hopefully it's not too much of an issue for you. This is yet another Eurovision related video here on my channel, and today I am filming what I hope will be the final instalment in a little series that I've been doing, in which I tell you what I'd like to see and hear from every likely participating nation at the 2025 edition of the Eurovision Song Contest, which, as we know, will take place next May in either Basel or Geneva in Switzerland. As always, you're welcome to let me know your thoughts on anything I discuss in today's video by leaving a comment down below, and as always, there are links in the description to my other social media pages. Check them out if you so wish. So last time out I finished with Poland, so I am going to continue today with Portugal and finish with the United Kingdom. Any countries deemed inactive I will be omitting from this video, so that includes the likes of Romania and Turkey, but maybe I'll talk about them in another video at some point soon. And I'll also be using the joint Instagram page that I have to go through some wish list names. If you hear any slight whirring in the background, I have my fan on because it is very warm here in England at the moment. So let's talk about Portugal. They use a national final, always have done really, FDC. I never really paid much attention to this until after Portugal won, for the first and only time to date, in Kyiv 2017, Salvador Sobral. I think the quality is now better. It's not exceptional, but it's better than it ever was. I did pay attention to FDC before 2017, but not a great deal. I would hear the songs, I would obviously hear the winner because it would go to Eurovision, and that would be the end of it. But now I do pay a bit more attention to what's going on, and that might be the case for a lot of other people as well. I think the quality of the music is okay. I think the diversity in terms of genre is not quite there yet, but then again, you could say this for almost every national final, if you ask me. It's great that the songs are in Portuguese. We have a jury vote and public vote, 2 semi-finals and the final. Really, I don't think anything needs to change at all. I think the format is okay. It's not too long. We have open submissions as well as artists, or rather songwriters, that have come through the broadcaster themselves saying that they want certain people to be involved. I think that's quite interesting. And ever since Salvador won, I think Portugal have upped their game. This is a country that many years ago, if you had said, oh yeah, Portugal are going to finish in the top 3 or top 10 or qualify, it was maybe a bit unlikely, but now we are used to seeing Portugal qualify pretty much every year, and the results have been generally okay, I would say. We've had some really great tracks over the past few years. More of the same, really. That's what I'd like to see and hear from Portugal next year. Maybe something a bit out of left field, a bit of a rock song, I don't know. I felt like the Black Mamba in 2021 was maybe something ever so slightly unexpected because it was in English. So I'm not saying a song in English again, but maybe something that we're not quite expecting from Portugal, long story short. Otherwise, I don't really have any concerns. Now, in terms of wish list names, I think I did this post after the artists had been revealed last year, or after the songwriters had been revealed last year. It's very interesting how in Portugal you get the songwriters first, which is interesting. But 2 names on the Portugal wishlist post I've got here in front of me are Cláudia Pascoal and Bárbara Tinoco. Cláudia Pascoal, fabulous, kept up with her career ever since she did Eurovision. I think there was some sort of documentary thing on her YouTube channel very recently, which I need to get around to watching. But she was there on home soil, Lisbon 2018, with O Jardim and Isaura. And I've spoken about this song so many times before. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Last place, of course. And then Bárbara Tinoco, who's been involved a couple of times now in FDC. The songs that she's had aren't massively different from each other, but they're pleasant enough, and I'd love to see her represent Portugal at some point soon. Moving on to San Marino, very recently they confirmed participation for 2025, and they will once again be using their national selection process, Una Voce per San Marino. This format has flaws. Oh boy, does it have flaws indeed. I think it needs to be condensed significantly. I think it's fantastic that anybody can enter this. everybody gets a fair shot. We have these audition rounds, and we can see those online somewhere every year if we so wish. That's great. Everybody gives it a go. But I also wouldn't be the slightest bit disappointed if those audition rounds were scrapped or took place well behind closed doors, because really the quality is not great. There's a lot of mush in those audition rounds, and certainly I'm not listening to the songs in full. I'm hearing enough of each one to really have an opinion on them, but there are so many, and we have sort of automatic qualifiers, do we not? Sort of big artists, I think they're called. I don't know. I just think the whole format needs to be stripped down to the bare essentials. Maybe take a leaf out of Luxembourg's book at some point soon. Just one show, 6 acts, the very best San Marino can get their hands on, and then there is a jury and maybe a public vote. I don't know. That might be the way to go. I've said before on my channel that I'm not a huge fan of national finals that just go on and on and on. Only one song is going to come out on top in the end, and just having this long-winded process to find that song, I'm not sure half the time it's super necessary. So in terms of San Marino, what I'd like to see next year is somebody from San Marino, but I'm not sure that's going to happen. Failing that, somebody from Italy, a song in Italian, and something that just feels really competitive. When Adrenalina came along in 2021, I think people were so surprised that this was an entry for San Marino, and then people were even more surprised when Flow Rider showed up in the music video. And it just felt so strange that this was a Eurovision entry for San Marino. Something like that again would be quite nice. I'm not saying a song with an American rapper involved, but a song that feels so shocking, almost as if we can't believe San Marino have come up with this. So we'll have to see moving forwards. Another option, and I would be all for this, is the national selection in San Marino having a very loose partnership with Sanremo. We have had a couple of Sanremo artists be involved in San Marino's selection. We've had Achille Lauro, for example. We've had Loredana Berthe with the same song this year in both selections. We've had Jalis involved as well. Now, I would love for a situation in which there's a sort of newcomers section in Sanremo. The format's changed ever so slightly every year, I believe, but there's a sort of newcomers section. I think it would be great if maybe somebody who doesn't progress to the actual Sanremo Music Festival itself, maybe somebody who gets knocked out from the newcomers section early, something like that, maybe San Marino give them a call and say, that song, how about trying for your geographical neighbours? I don't know, something like that I think would be very nice and perhaps very appreciated by Eurovision fans. So it's something to think about. I'm not sure it will ever happen. I really don't think it will ever happen, but I think it would be nice if it happened. But we move on to Serbia. They have a national selection, lots of songs. I don't think we need quite so many, but there we are. 2 semi-finals and a final, usually jury and public vote. Something that I will say about Serbia is that I think certainly last year, and also in 2022 to an extent, Serbia have tried to do something a little bit different. Luke Black's entry was very divisive. It was definitely its own thing. It felt quite unique and fresh. It stood out from the field, but the result wasn't brilliant. But fair play for trying something different. And then Constractor the year before, that was obviously a very different track, and it worked. People were really on board with that. Did exceptionally well in the public vote in Turin. 5th place overall that year. I would like to see Serbia again try something maybe a little bit on the daring side, maybe a little bit on the unexpected side. This year's entry was fine, but ultimately it did fall a bit flat in the grand scheme of things. It didn't stand out much in the running order. I don't recall many people really raving about this track. Ramonda, beautiful voice, nice song, but ultimately lacked any sort of momentum, in complete contrast to what Incorpore Sano had a few years ago. So I think What I'd like from Serbia next year is maybe something a little bit on the quirky side, something that feels, again, very different. I sound like a broken record once more, but it's so true. Just something that really is its own thing. Something that you can't compare to another song at Eurovision, because it's just so very different. And Samo mi se spava was sort of like that, and Incorporare Sano was very much like that, so we know Serbia are capable of this. Looking on the wishlist post, and I forgot to mention San Marino, I'll do that in a minute. On the Serbia wishlist post, I had Breskvica, who was involved in the Serbian selection this year, finishing second. Nadia, who's been involved 2 years in a row. Zera, and Filip Balosh, who was involved this year again after finishing fourth last year, but he didn't even make the final this time around. So there we go. I can see 1 or 2 returning names for Serbia in the near future, I really can. I would not be surprised if Željko Joksimovic is involved again at some point. Just going back to San Marino very briefly, the wish list names were Ledeva, who were the runners-up in 2023, Roy Paci, Vina Rose, and Ex Jove, who I think were involved again this year. We move on to Slovenia. Now, I believe Slovenia are going back to their national final EMA, which is fine. We've had long-winded processes there before, absolutely. I think it was 2022. We had this whole sort of qualification round. It went on for absolutely ages. I don't remember any Eurovision fan paying the slightest bit of attention to it. But LPS came through that format, I believe, and then they won EMA itself, which I found really quite surprising. But then I read afterwards that they were a sort of student band, and loads of people who they studied with in the past voted for them. Something like that, I don't know if it's true. But anyway, they didn't do well at Eurovision. Over the past 2 years, we've had internal selections. We've had Joker out, who were definitely very popular and still are, but the result was a bit disappointing in Liverpool. And then this year we had Raven, who perhaps a bit surprisingly qualified for the final with a perfectly fine song, but she didn't get much love in the grand final in Malmö. What would I like next year? Well, I'm not against the idea of somebody being involved who's tried numerous times in the past to represent Slovenia, and this time they finally get their chance, such as Raven. You know, she'd tried a few times in the past couple of years to represent Slovenia, and she was internally chosen, and I was very happy for her to finally have this opportunity on the big Eurovision stage. We've had artists like Be Cool or BQL. They've been involved a few times. I can see them trying again sooner rather than later as well. I wouldn't be surprised if Omar Naber comes back yet again. On the wishlist post, though, we have Luca Bassi, July Jones, who finished 5th in 2022, Nika Zoryan, who's been involved a couple of times, and former junior Eurovision representative Lina Kuduzovic, who was the runner-up in the 2020 edition of EMA. You've also got Ula Lojar, who's another former JESC representative too. Somebody like that, you know, somebody who's tried before, somebody who Eurovision fans are probably fairly familiar with, and they finally get their chance to do it. But of course the song has to be really strong. And one thing I have noticed with Slovenia is that over the years there's definitely been wildly different opinions between the public and the jury. I don't know what that's all about. It is what it is. We move on. So maybe a bit of a change to the voting system as well. International jury stuff, maybe introduce that. I don't know. We'll see moving forwards. But Slovenia can take heart from Croatia, who geographically aren't that far away. They just had this golden year this time around. And Slovenia might feel as though their golden entry, their golden year, is going to come up sooner rather than later. Who knows? We now talk about Spain, one of the automatic qualifiers. I do enjoy Spain at Eurovision pretty much every year. They have Benidorm Fest, which is sticking around for the foreseeable future. I believe the format's going to be slightly different for 2025, but don't quote me on that. I haven't read too much about it. Spain is a country that we know is chock full of great musicians. We've had so many different formats over the years. We've had national finals, we've had internal selections, we had Operación Triunfo, and now we've got Benidorm Fest. I think Spain, in a sense, are moving in the right direction, but I also think they're going backwards. That Chanel result in 2022 is looking more and more like a one-off, because Blanca Paloma was last with the public. And this year, Thora, as fun as it was, and it did grow on me, was never really deemed super competitive, and the result was no real surprise. And I've read a few times over the years from people online about how Spain aren't bothered about winning, they just want to send something that they can feel proud of. Now that's all well and good, but if I was a Spanish Eurovision fan, I'd be thinking, for crying out loud, we have not won since the late 60s, it is high time we won again. So I would be going all out to try and make that happen. I would be absolutely wanting something major to come along. Now, Chanel in 2022, what was so impressive about her, apart from the fact that the Spanish public didn't really want her at all in the first place, is she was so confident on stage. Yes, she was obviously moving about in a rather saucy manner, which probably helped a little bit when it came to the results, in all honesty. But she was very confident on stage, and that really helps your cause. Plus, it was a pretty credible pop song, and it had a bit of a universal appeal to it. It wasn't really jarring for a lot of people. Whereas Blanca Paloma's song in Liverpool last year, it felt a little bit more on the traditional side, which can be appreciated. And I absolutely feel that had it been another contest another year, that song could have done really well. Why it fell flat on its face, I don't really know. Clearly a lot of people just thought that Blanca was wailing for 3 minutes rather than actually doing something impressive with her voice. And then this year, you know, like I said, Thora was fun, but I don't think anybody really deemed it a serious contender. I think it might be worth sending something like what Blanca Paloma had again. Something that feels more Spanish somehow. You know, I don't know how else to describe it, but something that feels as though it could only come from Spain. I think that would be really appreciated because, as I've just said, in another year, another universe, that song she had could have done really, really well. I believe so. Now, Tanxugueiras, who were the runners-up a couple of years ago, I can see them trying again. And if they try again with a song half as good as what they had last time out, then Spain could be onto something very special. I'm looking at the wishlist post here. We do still get, and this has been the case for the longest time with Spain, we do get some songs in their national selection that just aren't that great. They're there to make up the numbers. That's what it feels like. Sounds harsh, but I think it's true. Then you have some real quality. St. Pedro this year, for example, I'd like to see him try again, because that song felt beautiful, and it might have done fairly well at Eurovision, who knows. Angie Fernandez, absolutely, I think, should try again, because her song was fantastic. The only disappointing thing with that is that it was a predominantly, I believe, Scandinavian songwriting team. What a disappointment. So, yeah, there's definitely plenty of musicians. It's whether they want to do it or not. On the wishlist post, we have Aitana, who was second in Operación Triunfo in 2017. Megara, who represented San Marino this year. Rosalia, who is never going to do it no matter how long we sit down and wait for it. She's such a huge star. And I think somebody like her doing Eurovision would be a massive deal, because the interest would be absolutely enormous, and not just from Spain as well. So if there's another musician like Rosalia who's coming through the ranks at the moment in Spain, it might be worth taking a look at them. Vico, who finished third in 2023. We've also got Anna Mena, who tried to represent Italy the other year, I believe. Alice Wonder, who was fifth in 2023, Tanxugueiras, who were the third place, not the runners-up, third place in 2022, and La Oreja de Van Gogh, Van Gogh's Ear. They have been around for years and years and years, and they are a big deal. They've had loads of #1 albums in Spain, and I think they would be fantastic. I really do. And here's a little fun fact for you. I was out yesterday, and I saw one of their CDs in a charity shop. Unbelievable, because they're a Spanish group and I didn't expect to see it, and to be honest I probably should have bought it. But there you go, Van Gogh's Ear. Maybe they should try for Spain. Why not? Again, I'd like to see something a little bit different. I mention rock music all the time. Megara, they're not going to be involved, but something in that sort of vein. Orange Fernandez, her song this year in Benidorm Fest was definitely a bit on the angsty side. I would very much appreciate something like that from Spain at Eurovision. Moving on, we have Sweden. Well, Sweden only need to turn up, and they're in the top 10 pretty much. Do we have any concerns about Sweden? Not really. They know what they're doing. They're going to want to win again sooner rather than later. They know they can win whenever they fancy like it. And there are so many musicians that so many of us are familiar with, and really they could pick any of them and they're probably going to do quite well. I don't like how Melfest has changed over the years. We've had different lengths in terms of how many songs are in each heat. The second chance round, which I'm still calling it that by the way, that format's changed. The way the voting's different. This year, the whole second chance round business was a complete fail because of the way that the votes from the previous heats were included. The age range voting I have never liked. You cannot tell me 3 or 4 year olds are really paying attention to Melfest and, absolutely getting ready to vote in each heat. I just fail to believe that. So that would go. I would change the second chance round format. I would keep the international jury vote. Maybe introduce a jury vote in the heats as well. That's a possibility. I don't know. Anyway, what I'd like to see in here from Sweden next year is a song in Swedish, because why on earth have we not had one this century? I believe it's this century. I'd like to see a really fantastic performance again, and I'd like to hear a rock song or something that just isn't fairly bog standard pop. On the wishlist post we have Ida Lova, who didn't even make the final in 2023, but she had a great song. She's got a great voice. Teots, who's been involved a few times. Lisa Ajax, who I think definitely now has had her child because she was pregnant at Melfest. I don't think she'll be trying again anytime soon, in all honesty, but what a singer. Dotter, who was last this year, I don't think she'll try again. Victoria, maybe, she's been quiet for a while. Smash Into Pieces, well, they've done well with both of their entries so far. Miriam Bryant, who's never done it. First Aid Kit, who I think are far too famous to do it now, but they are brilliant. Kiana, she was 6th in 2023, didn't do it this year, 2025, hello. Hannah Ferm, who I can absolutely see being involved again. Leon, Clara Klingenström, who was back this year but didn't make it through her heat. Laleh, Laleh, I'd like to see her try. Victor Lexell, who's a big star. Mira Granberg and Veronica Maggio. Those are names that I'd like to see involved. I'd also like to see Lika Lee involved as well, because I've been listening to some of her music recently and it's actually quite good. So, that's Sweden. I'm rambling big time. As for Switzerland, the host nation, there's no wishlist post for them because they don't have a national final. The code was really very special. It was so different. It was so well performed. It was very engaging. It was this melding of genres, and it worked wonders because Switzerland won the jury vote, did well in the public vote, won overall, and we're heading to Switzerland next year. What will we get from the host nation? Well, in the past, host nation entries haven't always been that fantastic, and some host nations have really struggled to get the votes. But I think Switzerland are going to keep trying hard to get consistently great results now, and John Steers, they can thank him for that to some extent, and Luca Hani as well, and of course Nemo now. Next year, I wouldn't be mad if it's something fairly similar in the sense of different styles being mixed together into one very interesting 3-minute song. I think maybe something a lot more up-tempo, or something that's way more stripped back. Maybe just a straightforward ballad, but with something dynamic about it that makes it feel a little bit more unique than an ordinary ballad, if you see what I mean. Otherwise, I'm not too fussed. I think it will be in English, but if it's in another language, that's fine. The last time Switzerland hosted, they had an entry in Romansh. So it would be interesting to see if they do that again. I don't think it'll happen, but you never know. So yeah, I'm not too concerned. I'm not too fussed who it is or what the song is, to be honest with you. As long as it feels fairly competitive, as long as the performer is brimming with confidence, as long as the staging is bang on the money as well. What was so impressive as well about the Code this year on stage in Malmö was that we had the platform that Nemo was on, but it didn't feel over the top. It wasn't like they threw everything at the staging to make this song stand out. It just worked and it felt quite seamless. It didn't feel like it was something that was there just for the hell of it. So, something like that again. That would be much appreciated. I have nothing else to say. As for Ukraine, well, like... I didn't do a Ukraine wish list, which was very silly. But like with Sweden, Ukraine only have to turn up and they're in the top 10. They can really get away with doing anything. And I was talking about Spain and how it would be great if they had an entry that felt like it could only come from Spain. Ukraine, I think one of their strengths is that they always seem to send songs that feel like they could only come from Ukraine, if you see what I mean. They are so different from anything else any other country has in their national selection. Every year there is something a little bit different from what's gone before, something unique, something original, something very welcome indeed. Goa or Goa in 2021 with Shum, that was so wildly different from anything that we'd ever really had before. Teresa and Maria, okay, maybe it wasn't super original in terms of the sound, but it still felt very fresh and interesting and different from what any other country was really attempting to do. And Stefania is another great example of this. You know, that felt completely unique compared to anything else. And this is one of the strengths of Ukraine. They're just not going with the norm. They aren't playing it safe. They are trying different things. I think they want to win again very soon. I don't think they'd be able to host if they won again, but I think they want to win again very soon, and I think they know they can win again very soon, because the public are always, pretty much always on board with whatever this country sends to the contest. In terms of wish list names, I don't really know. I can't think of any off the top of my head. Anka, who was there this year, she was great. There was also the singer who was knocked out early in the sort of online qualification thing that they had for Vidbeer last time out. Let me load this up here. What's her name? The song was in English. It was pretty good. Where are we looking here? Krilata, I think it was. Yes, with Queen. She was third in the online wildcard vote last December. That was pretty good. That was pretty good. Jagodi, I'd like to see them come back. Absolutely. Absolutely. And they always nail the staging too. So really, more of the same, because it's working. That leaves the United Kingdom, and I am aware that this video has been very messy indeed. I'm going to be brief with my thoughts on the UK because I've mentioned my own country before, and I actually would like to make a video more about the UK in the near future. We need something very, very different. Ollie Alexander, in all honesty, did not bring something wildly different to the table. In terms of staging, perhaps so. In terms of the song, not really. Last year, not really. Sam Ryder, not really, but it was such a strong effort and it was so well performed and we did so well. The points poured in, we won the jury vote. But like with Chanel in Spain, Sam Ryder's result is looking like more and more of a one-off for the United Kingdom. So how do we bounce back? Because believe me, the media will start tanking Eurovision again before you know it, and it'll be Brexit this, Brexit that, and all of the love that seems to have come back for Eurovision a little bit in the UK over the past few years since Sam Ryder flew the flag for us, that will soon dissipate. if you ask me. It will soon dissolve into nothingness. I really feel that. Now, there is talk about Sydney Christmas, who won Britain's Got Talent very recently. Now, I haven't heard her sing, apart from a 15-second clip on television a few weeks ago. She seems pretty good. But I do not like the idea of picking somebody who has been on a televised singing competition. I don't know why, it just niggles me a little bit. We've been there and done that with so-so success over the years. You know, we had Joe and Jake, we had Andy Abraham, we've had all of these people over the years who have been on The X Factor or The Voice, and other countries do use their versions of those shows with some success. So I'm not wholly against it. But I just feel in the UK, it isn't the way to go. It really isn't. I think there are so many fabulous up-and-coming musicians in the UK who haven't been on a show like that. Pick one of them. Give them the chance. Every year, there is this BBC Sound Of poll. I believe it's called something like that. I can't quite remember. And it's essentially a list of names who the BBC think, or all of these journalists think, will be a big deal in the future. Pick somebody from that. It's right there. It's such a great thing to use. Or something like, you know, the Brits Rising Star. Is that even an award that they have? I think so. I'm talking shite now, as you can tell. But something like that would be really fantastic too. Pick a band, pick an indie song, pick a rock song, let them have full control over their entry, and see what happens. One of the good things about this year was that Ollie Alexander was a pretty big name, still is a pretty big name. Getting somebody like that felt like a real coup. More of the same next year with that regard, but not a pop song. Not a pop song. Let's talk about a national final. Okay, if that happens, but I do not trust the British public at all to make the right choice. Absolutely not. If there's a jokey entry, it's winning. Because the British public, they've shown time and time again that they haven't got a clue. So I would not be feeling very optimistic if we had a national final for the right song, or one of the right sounding songs, to come out on top. I do have wishlist names somewhere, but they're a little bit all over the place. Here we go. I'll go through these briefly. Dylan, pop, electro pop, supported Ed Sheeran on tour, BBC Sound of 2023 nominee, 1 mixtape and 3 EPs to date. I think they might have released an album by now, I'm not sure. Check out You're Not Harry Styles. Churches, they're from Glasgow, electro pop, 4 albums to date. Brit Award nominated, performed all across Europe. Lauren Maybury, the lead singer, has done some solo material lately. Holly Humberstone from Lincolnshire, synth pop, indie rock. Debut album came out last year. Check out London Is Lonely. Brit Award Rising Star winner, has opened for Olivia Rodrigo. These are the names you should be looking at. And if you're not, why not? It really begs the question. The Japanese House, my god, fantastic. Buckinghamshire. Indie pop, electro pop, 2 albums to date. I think there might be a 3rd by now. Check out Something Has to Change. Sound of 2017 nominee, supported the 1975 and worked with Charlie XCX. Wet Leg, hell's bells, dear viewers. Something like this would go down a damn storm at Eurovision as far as I'm concerned. Isle of Wight, post-punk indie pop, 1 album, surely a 2nd one is on the horizon. Check out Chaise Long. 2-time Brit Award and Grammy Award winners, shortlisted for the 2022 Mercury Prize. We've just had the nominees for the next Mercury Prize. Come on now, take a look at the names there. Pick one of them for Eurovision, heavens above. Who else have we got here? Maisie Peters from West Sussex. 2 albums, check out John Hughes' movie. Been supporting Ed Sheeran on tour. Pale Waves, they've got a new album coming out later in the year. I mean, prime time, you know, after September for Eurovision. They're from Manchester, indie rock, pop rock, 3 albums, a 4th one out soon. Check out Television Romance. Q Best Breakthrough Act 2019. London Grammar, Nottingham, indie pop, 3 albums. Check out Strong. 2-time Brit Award nominated, high charting albums across Europe and Australia. Biba Doobie, who is half Filipino, I believe. 2 albums to date. Check out Care. BBC Sound of 2020 long list, supported Taylor Swift on tour. Wolf Alice, they'll never do it. They've been quiet for a while, a new album could be on the horizon. They're from London, 3 albums to date. Check out Yuck Fu. 3-time Mercury Prize nominated, 4-time Brit Award nominated. I think they've won one as well. And they've been Grammy nominated. And I think there were a few other names as well. I'll go through these briefly when I can find them. Do bear with me, dear viewers. Sam Fender, fantastic. Rina Sawayama, who was linked with Eurovision last year. Pixie Lott, she's just come back with new music for the first time in years. Amy MacDonald, The Dream Act. Tom Grennan, Mimi Webb, Dodie, Griff, who would be fantastic. Freya Ridings, Let's Eat Grandma. Leanne from Little Mix, maybe. Becky Hill, Birdie, Perry Edwards from Little Mix. Nina Nesbitt, fantastic. Kat Burns, has she been Mercury Prize nominated? Can't quite remember. Baby Queen, Joy Crooks, Seagirls, and Jade Bird. Great names. See if any of them want to do it. And if you're not phoning them up and asking them, you'll never know. And if you're not paying attention to these artists, dear BBC, why not? Why not? I think, honestly, you've got to be looking at people like this. You've got to be using the resources that are available to you and not just going down the singing competition on TV route. But if that's what it ends up being, so be it. I apologise for the complete shoddiness of this video. I'm now going to shut up. But that is it. I've now spoken about what I'd like to see and hear from loads of countries with regards to next year's Switzerland-staged Eurovision Song Contest. Feel free to let me know your thoughts on anything I've discussed in today's video. I'm interested to see any comments, your thoughts on any acts you'd like to see be involved. And apologies if the quality was not that great. Until next time, take care of yourselves, stay safe, and bye for now.